Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Michael, and in April 2023 I bought this property in northern Portugal with my partner Verity, and we've been slowly renovating it ever since. This channel will document the renovation and eventually talk about life here in Portugal and all the ins and outs of moving from the UK to Portugal. This video is going to talk about what we did with the renovation at the end of last year. The last video I put out was in October 2023. It's now January 2024. A few things have changed to the house, which I'll talk about, and a slight change of plan on what we're intending to do with the interior, the building I'm standing on, and other bits and bobs will hopefully be covered in this video. So hope you enjoy it. One of the first things we did back in October was to finish off clearing out the attic. This is something that we probably should have done very early on, but for a few different reasons we took our time with it. And as you can see, the hatch into the attic space is pretty narrow and our hoover only just fit. As you can see, the roof is made up of a timber construction, and as is common of Portuguese roofs of this age, there is no membrane or felt under the tiles. This roof has a few small leaks, but nothing too serious, and the plan for the future is to replace the roof covering, retaining as much of the timber structure as possible. Another project I continued with was the building of the shutters. The second time around I tried a different tactic with them. Before I was creating two shutters independently and hoping they would line up. As I'm not the greatest carpenter, this was fairly difficult to do, as the hinges I was planning on using have no way of being adjusted, so all dimensions and angles had to be perfect, and they were clearly not. My new approach meant that I built the shutter as one complete unit in situ. This meant that there would be no need for any adjustment later on. I fixed two vertical timbers to the hinges, ensuring that they were level vertically. I could then fix them to two horizontal pieces before adding the rest of the verticals. I didn't have enough wood to finish the shutter fully, but just enough to test out this new method. Once the shutter was complete, I lifted it off the hinges and used my jigsaw to cut it into two individual shutters before rehanging. Guys, can you do me a favour again? Yeah. Come and grab this shutter. Just rest it down. I'm pretty happy with these shutters, and I think they will be the basis for the final design in the future. As the colder, wet weather started to ease up, we started on a couple of outdoor chores that needed to be done. We started to pull down some of the remaining granite posts. The plan is to reuse these around the garden, but temporarily I used them to create an area that would become a fire pit to burn the huge amount of branches and other debris left over from the autumn. Here you go. You may have seen in some previous videos, but the former owners left a stack of timber up near our corn storage building. This had been left for years, and most of the timber is unusable as it has rotted away. We bought some new plants recently, so I've been using this pile of rotting timber to create wood chips to be used as mulch, and we'll be continuing to use this as our supply of mulch until it's all gone. You may have seen another dog in the footage. This is our neighbour's dog Teddy, who invites himself over and has a play with Mila from time to time. With a period of sunny weather coming up, we decided to start the external wall insulation, something I've been itching to start for some time now. As this was something we had never done before, we anticipated some teething problems, but we double checked the method with the manufacturer of the products and went ahead. In a previous video, I showed us treating the wall with an algicide, knocking the render to check for loose parts and patching up damaged areas. The system we want to install is known by several names: external wall insulation, ETICS, ETICS, or external thermal insulation composite system, and more commonly here in Portugal as capoto. The first job was to mix the adhesive mortar and paste it onto the back of the boards. There are two main ways to do this. The first uses a notched trowel for flatter surfaces. The other option is to create a thick border of mortar around the edges and some blobs in the middle. We chose the notched trowel method as our existing walls are relatively flat, or so we thought. The next step was to place the board in position on top of the aluminium starter track and push it into the wall so that the adhesive comes into contact with it. This is where our problem started. We realised that the boards were not sticking to the wall enough. When installing these boards, you're looking for around 40% contact surface area, and removing some of the boards revealed that we were well short of that. The insulation boards I decided to use are expanded polystyrene, or EPS. These are commonly used for this purpose in Portugal and are readily available here. These boards are not vapor permeable and not environmentally friendly. The decision to go for this material over more eco-friendly options was purely financial. To get the same thermal performance from wood fibre or cork insulation, I would have had to spend much more, and unfortunately my budget could not stretch that far. Regarding breathability, the existing first floor walls are covered in a sand and cement render. This in itself has very little breathability. Removing this render is a lengthy, messy process that will likely cause damage to the brickwork behind. Taking all of this into consideration, I decided to cover the existing walls with an external wall insulation system. The stone walls of the house will not be externally insulated and will be repointed with a lime-based mortar in the future. These boards would also be mechanically fixed to the wall, but as this is a fairly big job, we didn't want to rush ahead and do something without thinking it through first. After a few attempts, we weren't convinced that we were installing it properly, so we stopped to do more research to come back to it another day. It turned out that we weren't the only ones to check the weather forecast that day, and at 5 pm the same day, I was called to ask if the window installers could come at 9 am the next day to start installing our new windows. As I had been waiting for some time and I was keen to get the windows in before the winter, I agreed. I then spent the evening moving furniture, making sure that all of the windows were accessible. At 9 am the following day, the window installers got to work ripping out the old windows, tidying up the openings and installing the new windows. They worked really fast and managed to install all 10 windows in one day. Despite not really having to lift a finger, it was a stressful day. Waves of buyer's remorse and self-doubt came and went. I was rushing around solving problems like sill details, opening directions, and other small issues. But after the dust had settled, I am very happy with what we went for. The green colour looks great, the bug nets work well and will be great in the summer, and the upgraded performance compared to the old wooden windows is obvious. There are a few issues that I will address in a later video, but having lived with them for a few months, we are very happy, and it takes us one step closer to a comfortable house. So that we could properly insulate the external walls, we had to remove some objects that protruded out from the existing walls. One of these was the aerial, which is no longer in use and quite ugly, so I decided to get rid of it. Yeah. And you get. And you get. Come on. Come on. On the same day that the window installers came, a local builder came to demolish our chimney and old kitchen hood. This room is no longer going to be a kitchen, so it didn't need the hood anymore. The old chimney flashing was damaged and caused water to enter the attic space. It also provided a passage for warm air to escape, so we were keen to remove it. We do plan on having some kind of wood burner in the future, but don't plan on having it in this location. This was a job I was planning to do myself, but seeing how much work actually was involved, I'm glad I got these guys to do it, and I'll probably be getting them back in the future to do more jobs. New battens and tiles were added to cover the hole in the roof, and the hole in the ceiling was filled with concrete. Finding somewhere to dump building waste is proving to be tricky, and everyone that I seem to ask say it's a common problem in this area. I agreed with the builder that he could leave it with me to avoid him charging a disposal fee. As I mentioned at the start of the video, there are a few changes to our future plans. We've realised that things take much longer than we first anticipated, and we're okay with that. We've been living out of a few rooms that have been redecorated, putting up with the undecorated rooms because we didn't want to redecorate too much before starting a more thorough renovation later. Looking at things now, that doesn't really make sense, so we're planning on redecorating the entire first floor before starting any work on the ground floor. And in order to work on the ground floor, I need to clear it out, as it's currently being used as a workshop and storage area. This outbuilding would be perfect to be the new workshop and storage room, but it also needs to be cleared out, and the roof leaks, so at the very least it needs to be re-waterproofed. And that's why I'm moving these bricks. These were left here by the previous owner and need to be removed so I can start work on the roof. If you were wondering about the insulation, well, we've put that on hold. After chatting to the window fitters and our builder, they recommended we wait for the spring or summertime to install it. I knew that this wasn't the best time of year to start. Perhaps I overestimated the work involved and the speed at which we could do it, and I was impatient as I wanted to get it finished before the winter. If rainfall gets behind the boards, it can dissolve the adhesive, causing all sorts of problems, and after a wet and windy day, some of the panels just came away from the wall. So we're planning on getting it done at some point in the future. One of the last jobs we took on at the end of last year was to cut back the vines at the front of the house. This included removing the existing metal arbor and some of the concrete supports. We do want to have a canopy over this area in the future, but as I've mentioned in previous videos, the structure was unsafe, and pruning the vines back allowed us to get to the frame and remove it. We cut back our vines fairly severely and hope that they will grow over our replacement arbor as soon as we build it.